Stampers, this is Dena from PocketFullOfStamps.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. What I want to show you today is how I made this card using our Brusho color crystals. This is actually a really easy card to make, and let me show you how I did it. I started out with a piece of our watercolor paper, and I also pre-cut the layer that's going to go off it. This is from our Rose Garden Thinlits die set, and I just cut this out of the thick Whisper White cardstock. And this is eventually going to get layered on the top here, but for right now I kind of want to just hold it on here and see where I want my color to go. So I'm going to take some water. This says Stamp and Mist, but it really is water, I promise. What I want to do is just kind of spritz a little bit here where the flower is going to go, and then a little bit up here in the corner as well where the leaves are going to go. And I know you can't really tell yet where I sprayed, but you'll be able to see it here in a second. Then I'm going to take the three colors that I want to use. I'm using the moss green, the yellow, and the gamboge. And if you shake these up a little bit, it'll kind of loosen up the powder a little bit. So when you go to sprinkle it, it'll come out a little easier. I'll sprinkle a little of the green up here at the top. And then I'm going to mix that orange and yellow a little bit. A little bit of orange. And a tiny little bit of yellow. That orange actually has kind of a lot of yellow in it, but we'll just add a little bit more. Okay, from here, I want to take my aqua painter and just blend those colors a little bit more than they are now. So I'll start up here where the green is. Just kind of run that around in there. And the colors are going to blend. You can see I got a little bit of orange or a little bit of yellow up here. It's going to be fine. Clean that off a little bit. And some of those little splatters I'm going to leave, but a lot of them I'm going to brush out here. Okay, and when you get it to be the way you want it to look here, and clean off your brush. Now, honestly, the best way to do this is to let it dry naturally, but I am never patient enough for that. So I'm going to dry it with my heat tool. And it's going to get noisy here. Sorry about that. What you want to be careful of when you're heating it or when you're drying it with your heat tool is that where the water's cooled, you want to make sure that you don't push that into an area where you don't want it to be. You see that little puddle right there? I'm just kind of trying to keep it in one spot. There we go, until it dries. And if your paper curls a little bit, you can flip it over, dry it a little bit on the other side. That you can speed it up a little bit quicker by drying it like that. But like I said, it really is best if you just spritz your paper and let it dry naturally. Okay, now what I'm going to do is take my rose piece and I'm going to add some fine tip glue on the back. This glue is great for working with pieces like this where you've got a lot of really fine areas. And you don't need to add a lot of glue. I'm just going to kind of go over it, catch a little bit on the edges here. mostly I just want to make sure I have it around the outside edges so that it's going to stick really good. And I can take this and lay it on here so that you can see that color through the cutout piece. And you do want to make sure and put your lid back on your glue so it doesn't dry out. Okay. Then I did not want these extra little pieces hanging off here, so I took my trimmer or my little scissors and just flipped it over and trimmed off that excess on the back. You could leave it there if you wanted to, but I didn't want to. Okay. My favorite thing to add to any project is a wink of Stella. And on this one, I don't know if you can see on here the extra little splatters, but I'm going to show you how I did that. That is my favorite thing to add to any project. What I do is shake this up a little bit. If you don't have very much ink in the tip, you'll want to squeeze really gently. And I emphasize gently because if you squeeze too hard, you're going to end up with a big blob of it. And maybe that's what you want, that's fine. But if you squeeze gently, you'll be able to just tap it on your finger and get little flecks of shiny sparkle on here. And you can do as much or as little as you want, but I always think that Wink of Stella just adds the perfect little bit of sparkle and shine to a project. I love it. I don't know if you can see that very well. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is stamp my little sentiment here. And I am using a stamp from a set called Special Celebrations, and it just says, "To my friend." So I can ink that up and stamp it over here on the edge like that. And this piece is obviously way too long, so I'm going to trim it off here a little bit and then show you a little trick I learned. If you're going to cut a little flag, if you cut up the center, then you can cut on either side to meet that little tip there, the little point that you made, and you get a really nice little flag like that. I'm also going to cut a little bit off of this edge. Okay, that is going to get adhered to the edge here. Like that. Okay. Then I just did a couple more paper layers. I used Peekaboo Peach, which is also what I stamped my little greeting here on. And then finally layer it onto Pear Pizzazz. And there's my finished card, like that. Thanks again for joining me for this card quickie video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my blog at pocketfulofstamps.com. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Facebook. Until next time, happy stamping!